Amelia, pack your things. You don't need to come in tomorrow. My boyfriend of 5 years, William, the CEO of Everest, spoke, his voice as cold as ice. He didn't even lift his eyelids, continuing to sign documents. I stood in the Everest CEO's office, looking at the man behind the desk. In 5 years, this was the first time he had spoken to me in such a tone. Why? I asked calmly. William finally looked up, his deep eyes devoid of any warmth. Vivian is back in the country, and she needs the chief officer position. You should know, this role was always meant for her. Vivian. His first love, the woman who had suddenly gone abroad 5 years ago. I've worked for the company for 5 years, rising from a junior assistant to chief officer, generating over $5 billion in profits for Everest. Now you want me to step aside for someone who just returned? My voice was soft, but every word cut like a knife. William frowned, seemingly surprised by my reaction. In the past, I had always been docile and obedient, never challenging any of his decisions. Amelia, you need to understand your place. He stood up, walking to the floor-to-ceiling window, his back to me. You're in your current position because I gave you the opportunity. Now I'm retracting that opportunity and giving it to someone more suitable. I almost laughed out loud. If he knew that every major decision, every successful project, every significant investment at Everest over the past 5 years had been orchestrated by me behind the scenes, I wondered if he'd still say such things. If he knew that 51% of Everest shares were actually in my name, I wonder if he'd still be so self-assured. But I said nothing, just nodded. All right, I understand. William was visibly stunned, likely not expecting me to agree so readily. Well. He turned around, a flicker of awkwardness on his face. You've certainly worked hard during your years at the company. HR will arrange a good compensation package for Y. Oh, you. No need, I interrupted him. I'll handle it myself. With that, I turned and walked away. As I reached the door, I heard William call my name. Amelia. I looked back at him. If you ever face difficulties in the future, you can come to me, he said, his eyes holding a complex expression. I smiled, the brightest I had ever smiled in front of him. Mr. William, what kind of difficulties do you think I'd have? Without waiting for his answer, I pushed the door open and left. Leaving the CEO's office, I saw Sam, the secretary, secretly watching me, his eyes full of sympathy. Everyone in the company knew Vivian was coming back, and that I was being pushed out. In the elevator, I took out my phone and dialed a number. David, it's me. Get ready to launch the plan. Ms. Amelia, are you sure about this? Once it's initiated, there's no turning back, a cautious voice came from the other end of the phone. I'm sure. I want to see all the documents by 9 a.m. tomorrow. After hanging up, the elevator reached my floor. I walked out of the Everest building, glancing back at the place I had spent 5 years. After tomorrow, it would no longer be a concern of mine. Returning home that evening, I sat on the sofa, looking at the thick stack of folders on the coffee table. They represented all my efforts over the past 5 years, and everything I was about to take with me. My phone rang. It was Chloe, my personal assistant. Ms. Amelia, Vivian has arrived and will start tomorrow morning. Also, Mr. William had HR prepare a resignation agreement, and the compensation amount is. The amount doesn't matter, I said calmly. Book me the earliest flight to Switzerland tomorrow. Also, notify the board of directors that an emergency shareholders meeting will be held the day after tomorrow at 10 a.m. Ms. Amelia, are you going to? It's time to go home, I said before hanging up. The night was deep, but I felt no sleepiness. 5 years ago, I had just returned from abroad, still a little unfamiliar with everything in the country. It was at a lavish corporate gala that William appeared like a savior, rescuing me from a difficult situation. He was gentle and refined then, his smile radiant and warm like the sun. Though young, he already showed extraordinary accomplishments. He felt so perfect, so captivating. Our story began with his small studio, which had only a handful of people. To help him, I secretly used my family's connections to inject crucial seed money into his company. With this shared experience, fighting side by side, we naturally fell in love. I thought it was fate, that I had finally met the right person. It turned out the woman in his heart was never me. It was his first love, Vivian. Never mind. Since that's the case, let them live their lives. And it was time for me to return to where I belonged. The next morning, I arrived at the company as usual, but this time, I carried no personal belongings. Because nothing here truly belonged to me anyway. Vivian was prettier than I had imagined. She entered the company in a Chanel suit and 12-centimeter high heels, accompanied by William. Everyone, I'd like to introduce Vivian. She holds a Harvard School MBA and will be joining our company as chief officer starting today. William stood at the front of the conference room, a gentle smile on his face I had never seen before. Applause rippled through the room, but I noticed many veteran employees looked somewhat strained. After all, I had performed well in this position, and being suddenly replaced by an outsider probably stirred up some feelings. Thank you, everyone, Vivian said, nodding Amelia fully. I know many of you might be unfamiliar with me, but I will strive to prove my capabilities. As for the former Amelia, her gaze shifted to me, a hint of disdain in her eyes. I heard she voluntarily resigned? I wish her all the best. Voluntarily resigned? I almost laughed out loud. It seemed William was willing to distort even basic facts to pave the way for his first love. Amelia, do you have anything else to say to everyone? William looked at me, his gaze signaling me to cooperate. I stood up, scanning everyone in the conference room. Among them were longtime subordinates who had followed me for 5 years, new hires I had personally promoted, and some fence-sitters. Nothing to say, I stated calmly. Just remember, some things, once lost, can never be found again. With that, I picked up my bag from the table, preparing to leave. Wait. Vivian suddenly spoke. Ms. Amelia, I hear you generated a lot of profit for the company these past 5 years? I wonder if you could hand over the relevant project documents to me? After all, I'll be taking over your work. Her tone was polite, but the challenge in her eyes was unmistakable. I stopped, turning to look at her. What documents do you want, Ms. Vivian? All of them, of course, Vivian said as if it were obvious. Project files, client information, partnership channels. These are all company assets, aren't they? The conference room fell silent. I noticed a few veteran employees looking uncomfortable. They all knew how much my contributions had led to the company's achievements today. For to immediately claim all my accomplishments seemed rather excessive. Ms. Vivian is right, I said with a smile. These are indeed company assets. A look of triumph appeared on Vivian's face. However, I changed my tone. I need to confirm my authority first. Some documents are confidential, after all, and not just anyone can view them. What do you mean? William frowned. I ignored him, took out my phone, and dialed the intercom. Legal department? This is Amelia. Please send my proof of share ownership and proof of directorship to the conference room. After I hung up, the conference room was utterly silent. Amelia, what are you doing? William's voice was a little impatient. You'll know in a moment, I said calmly. 5 minutes later, Department head Chen from the legal department rushed in, holding a folder. He glanced at the situation in the conference room and carefully handed the folder to me. I opened the folder, took out a share ownership certificate, and handed it to William. Mr. William, please take a look at this. William took the document, his face instantly turning ashen. This is impossible. His voice trembled. What is it? Vivian leaned in curiously to see. The next second, her face also changed. The share ownership certificate clearly stated, Ms. Amelia holds 51% of Everest shares, making her the company's largest shareholder. This must be fake. Vivian shrieked. How could she possibly have shares in the company? Department head Chen, please explain, I said calmly. Department head Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead. This proof of share ownership is authentic. Ms. Amelia indeed holds 51% of the company's shares. This was established when the company was founded 5 years ago. 5 years ago? William's voice was hoarse. That's impossible. I founded the company. No, Mr. William, Department head Chen said carefully. While you have been operating the company, the initial registered capital came entirely from Ms. Amelia. Strictly speaking, you are merely the company's general manager. Ms. Amelia is the true owner. The conference room was dead silent. Everyone stared at me in disbelief, as if seeing me for the first time. I crossed my arms on the table. Now, I have decided to sell all my shares. Interested buyers can contact my lawyer. With that, I prepared to leave. Amelia. William finally snapped back to reality, quickly standing up. You can't do this. If you withdraw your investment, the company will be ruined. I stopped, but didn't turn around. That's not my concern. After leaving the conference room, I went directly to my office. As expected, William quickly followed. Amelia, calm down. He pushed the door open, his face ched with an anxiety I had never seen before. We need to talk. I ignored him, instead opening my computer and starting to wrap up some final tasks. Listen to me, about Vivian. William walked to my desk, his voice lowered. I can reconsider. The company cannot function without you. I smiled, a little bitterly. I thought 5 years would be enough for her to see who I really am, but it seems she doesn't understand me at all. William, it's true this company cannot function without me. Without me, Everest would face a capital chain collapse within 3 days. Without me, those key clients would immediately shift to other companies. With every word I spoke, William's face grew uglier. But none of that matters, I said, walking to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the bustling traffic below. What's important is that I have no lingering affection for this company, or for you. Why? William's voice was very soft. Is it just because of Vivian? I turned, looking at the man who had once captivated me. It's not because of Vivian. It's because you never once treated me as a true equal. I stood up, picked up my bag, and prepared to leave. William, my 5 years of youth weren't given to you for free. Now, I'm taking back everything that belongs to me. William's face turned completely pale. He sank dejectedly onto the sofa. At that moment, the office door was pushed open. Vivian walked in, her face etched with anger and resentment. Amelia, what exactly are you trying to do? She pointed at me, her voice sharp. Are you going to destroy the entire company just because William chose me? I looked at her, feeling no anger, no jealousy, just an indescribable calm. Ms. Vivian, you misunderstand. I'm not trying to destroy the company, I'm simply withdrawing my investment. It's my right. I walked towards the door, stopping as I passed her. There's one more thing I want to tell you. Some men aren't yours for the taking. And some positions, you can't just occupy and hold on to. With that, I walked out of the office without looking back. At 3 in the afternoon, my private lawyer, David, arrived punctually downstairs at Everest. Ms. Amelia, all the documents are ready. He handed me a thick file bag. The equity transfer agreement, asset liquidation report, patent transfer documents. It's all here. I flipped through the documents and nodded. What's the valuation? According to the latest market assessment, Everest total assets are 23 billion. Your 51% stake is valued at 11 billion, 730 million. 11 billion, 730 million. The number itself was somewhat surprising to me. The money I had invested 5 years ago had now multiplied by nearly 20 times. How are things with the buyers? We've contacted 3 interested investment firms. Sterling has the highest offer, willing to acquire at full market price. However, David hesitated. Are you sure you want to sell everything? With Holdings' current growth trajectory, its value would continue to rise if you held on. I'm sure, I said, closing the file bag. Arrange the signing for tomorrow morning. David nodded, saying nothing more. As my private lawyer, he knew what to ask and what not to ask. One more thing, I remembered something. Please look into Vivian's detailed activities during her 5 years abroad. The more detail, the better. All right, I'll have an answer for you by tomorrow. After seeing David off, I returned to my office. The atmosphere in the company was noticeably tense. Everyone knew what had happened, but no one dared to discuss it openly. Chloe, my assistant, walked in, her face etched with worry. Ms. Amelia, news has already spread online. They're saying there's been a major personnel change within our company, and the stock price has started to drop. I opened my computer and checked the stock market. Everest stock price was indeed falling, dropping by 8% in just a few hours. As expected, I said calmly. The market fears uncertainty most. Should we issue a clarifying statement? No need, I shook my head. Everything will be settled tomorrow. The next morning, instead of going to the company, I went directly to Sterling. Sterling's chairman, Uncle, was an old friend of my father's, and my true backer in the business world. Amelia, are you sure you want to do this? Uncle sat behind a massive desk, looking at me with complex emotions. Everest was something you personally nurtured. Precisely why I cannot stand by and watch it be ruined by unsuitable people, I said, picking up my teacup and taking a small sip. Instead of letting it slowly decline, it's better to divest while it still has value. Uncle nodded. I understand. However, determining the acquisition price will take some time. No rush, I said, putting down my teacup. However, I have one condition. After the acquisition, I hope Sterling can retain most of Everest employees. Uncle was a little surprised. You thought of even that? Those employees have been with me for 5 years, they've done nothing wrong, I said calmly. As for management, those who need to be replaced, will be. I see, Uncle said with a smile. It seems you've thought of everything. By the time I left Sterling, it was already noon. I was just about to go for lunch when my phone suddenly rang. It was Chloe calling. Ms. Amelia, it's bad. Vivian has thrown the company into chaos. What happened? This morning alone, she fired over a dozen employees, saying she wanted to streamline the personnel structure. Now the entire company is in disarray, and many people are spreading rumors that the company is going bankrupt. I frowned. Vivian really couldn't keep her composure. What is William doing? Mr. William left early this morning, saying he was looking for investors. He hasn't returned yet. I thought for a moment. Tell everyone not to panic. Everything will be resold. Dead tomorrow. I hung up, shaking my head. It seemed Vivian, with her Harvard School MBA, was nothing special after all. That afternoon, I went to the law firm and completed all the legal procedures. Returning home that evening, I was surprised to find someone standing at my door. William. He looked exhausted, his suit crumpled, his hair disheveled. What are you doing here? I asked, walking over to open the door. I've been waiting for you all afternoon. His voice was hoarse. We need to talk. I glanced at him, and eventually opened the door. Come in. William followed me into the house, then stood motionless by the entryway. Have a seat, I said, changing into my slippers and walking towards the living room. Amelia, he suddenly spoke. I searched all day, but no investment firm is willing to take over Everest. I sat on the sofa, saying nothing. They all said that your core competence is Everest's main strength. Without you, this company has no investment value. This man finally acknowledged my existence. Unfortunately, it was too late. William, do you know what disappointed me the most? He shook his head. It's not that you asked me to step aside for Vivian, nor that you never truly loved me, my voice was soft. It's that you never treated me as an equal. William's face grew paler and paler. I'm sorry. If sorry fixed things, what would we need the police for? I stood up. William, I don't need your apology. I just need you to sign and confirm the equity transfer. What if I don't sign? He suddenly asked. I looked at him and smiled. Then you can wait and watch Everest go bankrupt within 3 months. You won't, William shook his head. You wouldn't have the heart to see so many employees lose their jobs. Want to test that? My tone was calm, but my eyes were cold. William, don't try to use morality to manipulate me. The employees losing their jobs will be your responsibility, not mine. You chose Vivian, you wanted to drive me out, and you caused the company to be in this state. Now you expect me to bear the consequences? Dream on. William remained silent for a long time, eventually sinking dejectedly onto the floor. I've truly lost you, haven't I? Yes, I answered without hesitation. You've lost me. Not just an employee, an investor, but a woman who truly loved you. But now, that woman is dead. After left, I sat alone on the sofa, lost in thought. 5 years of a relationship, just like that, it was over. To say I wasn't sad would be a lie, but there was also a profound sense of relief. Finally, I no longer had to carefully hide my true identity in front of him, no longer had to compromise myself to cater to his preferences, no longer had to painstakingly maintain a relationship for a man who didn't love me. Just then, my phone rang. It was David, my lawyer. Ms. Amelia, I found Vivian's information. Tell me. Vivian did study at Harvard, but not for an MBA. It was a 1-year visiting scholar program. And during her 5 years abroad, she wasn't studying, she was a mistress to a wealthy Chinese-American businessman. I raised an eyebrow. Continue. That businessman was John. He worked in real estate and knew. Vivian was with him for 3 years until he went bankrupt and jumped from a building last year, which forced her to return to the country. Do you have proof? Yes. I found her residence records and knew, and some photos of her with John. If you need it, I can compile these details into a report. No need, I said after a moment's thought. Anonymously send these details to a few financial media outlets. The next morning, I woke up and got ready as usual, then drove to Sterling. Today was the official signing. When I arrived at Sterling, I found William already waiting there. He looked like he hadn't slept all night, with dark circles under his eyes and an unshaven face. Ms. Amelia, Uncle stood up to greet me. Mr. William has been waiting for over an hour. I nodded and sat at the conference table. Let's begin. Over the next hour, we processed all the legal procedures. William didn't speak the entire time, he just mechanically picked up the pen and wrote his name when a signature was required. When the last document was signed, Uncle announced, the equity transfer is officially effective. From now on, 51% of Everest shares belong to Sterling. I capped my pen and let out a long breath. It was finally over. Ms. Amelia, here's your check. Uncle handed me a check. 11,730,000,000. The number seemed abstract, but it truly represented all my efforts over the past 5 years. Thank you, Uncle, I said, taking the check. I'll be leaving now. Wait, William suddenly spoke. Amelia, I have something to say to you. I stopped, but didn't turn around. For these past 5 years, I wronged you. His voice was soft, trembling. I admit, I never truly valued you, never treated you as an equal partner. I thought love meant I'd give you a position, and you should be eternally grateful. I thought a relationship meant you'd appear when I needed you and disappear when I didn't. But I was wrong. Terribly wrong. I listened to his words, my heart calm. He should have understood these truths long ago. Saying them now was only because he realized their value after losing them. If there were still a chance, his voice grew softer. I'd like to start over. I turned, scoffing at him. Do you think there's still any possibility between us? William froze. I am Amelia, Uncle's goddaughter, and the young heir of Sterling. My voice was calm. And you are now a jobless man burdened with debt. Do you think we have any common ground? Do you think I'd still be interested in the man you are now? The words were cruel, but I had to say them. Because only then would he truly give up hope. William's face turned completely pale. He looked at me, his eyes full of disbelief. So, you were deceiving me all along. His voice was faint, laced with despair. William, our story is over. I gave him one last look. I hope you learned something from this failure. For example, how to truly respect someone, how to truly love someone. With that, I turned and left the conference room. As I walked out of the Sterling building, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. Finally, I could be my true self again. That afternoon, I received a call from Chloe. Ms. Amelia, something's happened to Vivian. What is it? The media exposed her scandal abroad, saying she was a mistress to some wealthy businessman and never actually had a Harvard School MBA. Now the internet is flooded with negative reports about her, and the company's stock price has plummeted even further. A smile played on my lips. It seemed David's efficiency was quite good. What about William? Mr. William hasn't shown up all day. I heard Vivian already packed her things and ran off, taking the remaining few million in company cash with her before she left. A few million? Vivian was truly greedy. What's the situation with the company now? It's chaotic. Many clients are calling to cancel contracts, and employees are panicking, worried the company might go under. I thought for a moment. All right, tell all employees that there will be a meeting in the conference room tomorrow at 10 a.m. I have important news to announce. After hanging up, I drove to the bank and deposited the check for over 11 billion. Looking at the long string of numbers in my account balance, I felt no exhilaration, just a quiet sense of satisfaction. Money had never been the most important thing to me. What mattered was what that money represented. It represented that my 5 years of effort hadn't been in vain, that I could finally leave the past behind and start anew. That evening, I had dinner with Uncle. Amelia, what are your plans next? Uncle asked me. Haven't decided yet, I said, cutting my steak. Perhaps travel abroad for a bit. Or just rest at home for a while. Not considering coming back to Sterling to help me? I smiled. Uncle, what I need now is rest, not work. That's true, Uncle nodded. You've certainly worked too hard these past few years. By the way, for Everest, I plan to have Arthur take over. Arthur was Sterling's vice president, highly capable and reputable. That's wonderful, I said, putting down my knife and fork. Arthur will certainly manage the company well. Aren't you worried William will cause trouble? He can't cause any trouble, I said calmly. He agreed to all the terms during the signing. And right now, he has more than enough problems of his own. The next morning, I arrived punctually at the Everest conference room. All the employees were there, including some I thought had already resigned. Hello, everyone, I said, standing at the front of the conference room, looking around. I know many of you have been worried these past 2 days, worried about the company's future, and worried about your jobs. Today, I'm here to give you a clear answer. I paused, looking at the familiar faces. First, I want to tell you all that Everest will not go bankrupt. A murmur rippled through the conference room. Yesterday, Sterling officially acquired the controlling stake in Everest. Starting today, Everest will become a wholly owned subsidiary of Sterling. What does this mean? It means your jobs will not be affected. It means the company will have more robust financial support, and it means your future is more secure. Applause erupted, and I could see expressions of relief on many faces. Second, regarding personnel arrangements, I continued. Sterling will dispatch Mr. Arthur to serve as Everest's new president. Mr. Arthur has worked at Sterling for 15 years, possesses extensive experience and outstanding capabilities, and I believe under his leadership, Everest will develop even better. As for the former president, William, due to personal reasons, he will no longer hold a position at the company. Another round of murmurs filled the conference room. Finally, I want to say that while this upheaval has caused distress, it has also given us an opportunity to start anew. I hope that under the new management, everyone can continue to utilize their talents and contribute to the company's development. With that, I bowed. Thank you all for your support and trust over these past 5 years. The applause was thunderous. After the meeting, many veteran employees came to bid me farewell. After leaving Everest, I planned to take a long vacation for myself. In the days that followed, I traveled to many places, saw many sights, and met many interesting people. 3 months later, I returned home. During this time, Chloe occasionally sent me messages updating me on Everest. Under's management, the company was developing quite well. Not only had its capital chain recovered, but it had also secured several major projects. As for William, I heard he was now working as an ordinary employee at a small company, earning less than $10,000 a month. And, after the scandal broke, had completely disappeared. Some said she went back to her hometown, others said she went south. In any case, she never reappeared in this circle. I listened to these reports calmly, my heart unmoved. Those people, those events, were all in the past. One sunny afternoon, I was reading at home when the doorbell rang. Opening the door, I saw an unfamiliar young man. "Excuse me, are you Ms. Amelia?" he asked politely. "I am. Who are you?" "I'm Liam, the president of Horizon." He handed me a business card. "I'd like to discuss a collaboration project with you." I took the business card and looked at it. Horizon was a well-known venture capital firm, specializing in investing in tech startups. "Please come in," I said, stepping aside to let him enter. "Ms. Amelia, it's like this," Liam said, sitting on the sofa, his expression serious. "Our company has been focusing on investment opportunities in the artificial intelligence sector. Recently, we've come across a very promising project, but it requires an experienced partner. And you think I'm suitable?" "Extremely suitable," Liam nodded. "Everyone noticed your performance at Everest. Your business acumen and management skills are exactly what we need." I was a little surprised. I hadn't expected someone to remember me after being away from the company for so long. "What kind of project is it specifically?" "Smart medical devices." Liam pulled out a folder. "These are the detailed project documents. If you're interested, we can discuss it further." I took the documents and flipped through them. The project indeed had great potential, and it was an area I was particularly interested in. "Give me a week to consider," I said, closing the folder. "If I decide to collaborate, I'll contact you." "Excellent, I look forward to your reply," Liam said, standing up. "I won't disturb you any further." After seeing Liam off, I thoroughly studied the project documents. The more I read, the more intriguing it became. If this project succeeded, it would not only create immense commercial value but also genuinely help many people. After weighing the pros and cons, I picked up my phone and dialed his number. "Liam, I've thought it over. I'll take on this project." 6 months later, our smart medical device project officially launched. I served as the project's chief officer, responsible for overall business planning and market promotion. It was a new challenge, and a new beginning. The company quickly got on track. Our products received recognition from several hospitals, and orders steadily increased. Liam was an excellent partner, professional, and a good person. Most importantly, he respected me and never underestimated me because I was a woman. "Amelia, this month's performance report is out," Liam said, walking into my office with a document. "It's much better than anticipated." I took the report, glanced through it, and nodded in satisfaction. "The market response is indeed good. It seems we're heading in the right direction." "It's all thanks to you," Liam said, sitting opposite me. "This project wouldn't have been so successful without your involvement." "We are partners, there's no yours or mine," I said, putting down the report. "How are the next expansion plans coming along?" "It's already in preparation. We expect to officially launch next month." We discussed some specific details, then Liam got up to leave. As he reached the door, he suddenly stopped. "Amelia, there's something I want to tell you." "What is it?" "Yesterday, someone came asking about you." I looked up. "Who was it?" "A man, in his 30s, claimed to be your friend." I didn't reveal any information, but what? "I just had a bad feeling about him," Liam said, frowning. "You should be careful lately." I thought about it and had a pretty good idea who it was. "I understand. Thank you for the warning." After left, I sat in my office and thought for a while. "William, are you still not giving up?" After work, I didn't go straight home. Instead, I went to a shopping mall. At the coffee shop in the shopping mall, I saw William. He was sitting in a corner, occasionally glancing towards the entrance, clearly waiting for someone. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he immediately stood. Amelia, you finally came. You sent someone to tell me you had something important to say, I said, sitting across from him. So, what is it? William looked around, making sure no one was paying attention to us, before lowering his voice. I know what project you're working on now. And? I want to join, he said, his eyes serious. I have the experience, the capability. I can help you. I almost laughed out loud. William, do you really think I'd trust you? I'm serious, he quickly insisted. I know I made a lot of mistakes in the past, but I genuinely want to make amends. I want to prove to you that I've truly changed. Prove it with what? Your current despair? Your current state of having nothing? My words were cutting, but they were the truth. The of today had nothing but a mountain of debt. I can start from the bottom, he said, his voice soft. Even as a regular employee. No need, I refused without hesitation. My company isn't short on employees. Amelia. Don't call me Amelia, I cut him off. We don't have that kind of close relationship anymore. William's expression turned grim. You're so successful and wealthy now. What would it hurt to give me a job? Are you really that petty? His words made several customers around us look over. I gave him a deep look, then walked up to him. William, listen closely, I said, my voice quiet, but each word was sharp as a knife. I don't owe you anything. On the contrary, you owe me. You owe me 5 years of my youth, 5 years of my genuine affection, 5 years of enduring your behavior. You can never repay that. So don't play the victim with me, and don't think that just because you're down and out now, I should pity you. Your current situation? You brought it all on yourself. With that, I turned and walked away. Behind me, William's angry shouts echoed, Amelia. You'll regret this. I didn't look back, I just quickened my pace. Some people truly won't see the light until they hit rock bottom. 3 months later, our company reached a significant milestone. Our product officially passed FDA certification and could now be sold nationwide. To celebrate the good news, Liam suggested we host a celebratory cocktail reception. This is our company's first major success, and we should celebrate it properly, he said excitedly. I've already booked the hotel and invited some industry friends and partners. Good idea, I nodded. But let's not make it too big, keep it low-key. I know you don't like to be too flashy, Liam said with a smile. It's just a small gathering, mainly to thank those who supported us. The cocktail reception was scheduled for Saturday evening. That day, I specifically chose a black long dress, simple and elegant, not too flashy. Upon arriving at the hotel, I noticed there weren't many people, perhaps 30 or 40. They were all partners, investors, and the company's core employees. Friends, welcome to tonight's celebratory cocktail reception, Liam said, standing in the center of the crowd and raising his glass. First, I want to thank each and every one of you for your support and trust in our company. Secondly, I want to give a special thank you to my partner, Ms. Amelia, he said, turning to me, his eyes filled with gratitude. Without her involvement, today's success wouldn't be possible. Let's raise a toast to Amelia. Cheers, everyone exclaimed, raising their glasses. I smiled and nodded in acknowledgement. It felt truly good to be respected and recognized. Unlike my time at Everest, where I had to be so cautious, here, everyone respected me for my abilities, not for anything else. The cocktail reception proceeded smoothly. Everyone chatted and drank, and the atmosphere was relaxed. I was chatting with a few investors when I suddenly heard a familiar voice behind me. Well, Ms. Amelia, quite the success story now, aren't we? I turned to see William standing not far away, holding a glass of wine, a smirk playing on his lips as he watched me. The others present clearly didn't know him, but they all picked up on the mocking tone in his words. How did you get in? I frowned. I have an invitation, William said, shaking a card in his hand. Liam personally invited me. I looked at Liam, who also had a puzzled expression. I didn't invite this man, Liam said, walking over. Sir, who are you? I am William, William said unhurriedly. Ms. Amelia's ex-boyfriend and former boss. The atmosphere instantly became awkward. Where's security? Liam's face darkened. Please escort this gentleman out. Hold on, William said, waving his hand. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to congratulate. He raised his glass to me. Congratulations, Ms. Amelia, on finally getting everything you wanted. Money, status, success. Certainly worth celebrating. However, I want to remind everyone of something. His voice suddenly boomed, audible throughout the entire venue. Ms. Amelia's success wasn't exactly from humble beginnings. She's the adopted daughter of Lynn, chairman of Sterling, a heiress worth tens of billions. How much of her current success is due to her own ability, and how much is due to family resources? That's hard to say. A hush fell over the room. Everyone looked at me, their eyes holding doubt, surprise, and something else I couldn't quite place. I gave William a long, hard look, then walked to the center of the crowd. Mr. William is right, I said calmly. I am indeed Mr. Lynn's adopted daughter. However, I'd like to clarify something, I said, looking around at everyone present. I recognized Mr. Lynn as my adoptive father after I had achieved success in my career, not before. My first substantial wealth came from my equity investment at Everest. That investment was entirely from my personal savings, no one funded it. As for my current success, all of you here are witnesses. From the project's launch until now, every decision, every effort, you've all seen it firsthand. I paused, then looked at William. However, Mr. William, I'm rather curious, by what right did you enter this cocktail reception? William's expression became somewhat awkward. Just then, a middle-aged man I didn't recognize walked over. I apologize, Ms. Amelia, he said, a bit awkwardly. I brought him. He said he was a friend of yours and wanted to discuss business. And you are? I'm Mr. Robert from Legacy, the middle-aged man said, handing me a business card. I'm a guest invited by Liam. I took the card, glanced at it, and then nodded. Mr. Robert, you've been to say. Ved, I said calmly. This. William and I do know each other, but we have no business dealings whatsoever. Furthermore, to my knowledge, Mr. William is currently deeply in debt and has no investment capacity. A slight stir went through the crowd once more. Mr. Roberts' face fell, clearly realizing he had been used. Security! Liam called out loudly. Please escort these two gentlemen out. Soon, the hotel's security guards arrived. Wait, William suddenly interjected. Amelia, do you think this is over? His eyes held a flicker of madness. You ruined my company, you ruined my life. Do you think you can just walk away? I'm telling you, it's not that easy. I've already gathered enough evidence to prove your illegal activities during your time at Everest. Embezzlement, insider trading, business fraud. Those charges are enough to land you 10 years in prison. His words stunned everyone present. But I just smiled. William, do you really think I'd be intimidated by your threats? This isn't a threat, it's the truth, he shouted wildly. I have evidence. I have recordings. I'll make sure everyone knows your true colors. Then go ahead, I said coolly. Go to the police, go to court, go to the media. Let's see who believes the ramblings of a bankrupt, jobless man. You. William stammered, choked by my words. Security, please escort this gentleman out, I said, no longer looking at him. If he bothers us again, call the police immediately. The security guards came over, took William by the arms, and started dragging him out. Amelia, you'll regret this. You absolutely will regret this. William's shouts echoed through the venue until he was dragged out the door and silenced. The venue fell silent once more. Everyone watched me, waiting for my reaction. I raised my glass, a faint smile playing on my lips. I apologize that everyone had to witness such a spectacle, I said. But this also serves to illustrate a point. On the path to success, there will always be some failures who try to drag you down. However, as long as we persist in doing what's right, no slander or defamation can truly harm us. Let's continue tonight's celebration. To our success, to our future, cheers. Cheers, everyone exclaimed, raising their glasses once more. And with that, the spectacle concluded. The remainder of the cocktail reception went smoothly, and everyone seemed to forget the earlier incident. But I knew this wouldn't be William's last appearance. However, I no longer cared. I had reached new heights and would no longer be affected by the shadows of the past. Whatever tricks William still had up his sleeve, I had more than enough ability to handle. Because the person I was now was no longer the girl who could be easily manipulated 5 years ago. I was Amelia. I had my own career, my own team, my own future. Anyone who tried to stand in my way would be trampled underfoot. This was the confidence of a successful person. This was the life I had reclaimed. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.